Joe Biden. I think a lot of people on the right, me included, think that Biden is probably the most reasonable person in the field. Not that that's saying much.
Yeah, and a very nice man to boot.
I think that's right. I absolutely think that. But I've never thought that his heart seemed in it, and I never thought that this was his year. What's your assessment?
I think he's always wanted to be president. You know, he's tried it before repeatedly,
yes.
Right? It hasn't worked out. I think he thinks that perhaps now is his turn. I think he wants to be president because I think it would represent the culmination of his career. And I think his problem isn't just that he makes these gaffes, which he's always done. You know, he blurts these things out that are totally impolitic. For example, poor people are as smart as white people, or whatever, however you put that, right? We're just as smart as white kids. That's a gaffe. However, Tucker, the stuff you see with him more recently, for example, not remembering that when he met with the students from Parkland High School, that he wasn't still in office. He'd been out of office for more than a year when that happened. The fact that he misremembered that's not a gaffe. That's the kind of memory problems that people his age, and indeed my age, have all the time. And I think that the thing that may catch up with Biden over time, even among Democrats who would otherwise be for him, is the feeling that senility is overtaking him. And I think it is.
Geez. No one wants to say that. Do you think that, you make a compelling case for it. Do you think that Democratic leaders in Washington, to the extent they still exist and have power, share the concern that you
I'm sure they do. They're bound to. They see this stuff, and look at the history of his presidential campaigns. It's been he's undone himself repeatedly.
Yes.
You remember the plagiarism of the Neil Kinnock speech and other stumbles that he's had. He tells these tall tales. I mean, this recent story that he told about trying to pin the medal on the guy, he had the facts all jumbled up, and that strikes me as another case of his memory failing him. And I think that as Democratic voters look at this over time, and they're thinking about somebody going in to confront Donald Trump, right? Who says all kinds of crazy stuff all the time. But that's kind of baked in the cake with Trump. People know that about him. And I think, if you're going to beat him, you don't want to be a candidate suffering from the same kind of problem, although expressed in different ways.
Right.
You can't be somebody who tells all kinds of tall tales all the time if you're trying to beat the guy who you think is bad because he tells tall tales all the time.
So you meet people in Washington all the time. I spoke to one today who look at the polls, they say Biden's in front, he's going to be the nominee. Do you share that view?
I think, Tucker, that at this stage, we have no idea who the real front runner is.
Yes.
That sentiment, we are so early in this process. We are months and months and months away from anybody voting, right? I mean, we are half a year away from just about from the early caucus and primary states. Biden's lead in those places is much smaller than his national lead. He's just a few points ahead, single digits in both Iowa and New Hampshire. I think that sentiment is very soft, and I think that we see these reactions in debates. For example, Kamala Harris had a big up moment after the first debate when she took Biden on.
Yeah.
And then by the time the second or third debate rolled around, she was back to where she started from, and he'd gone back again. I just think everything is soft. Nearly everything is name recognition and so on. And the Democrats around the country have not even really begun to think seriously about this because they're normal people. They're not as absorbed in this stuff as we here in the capital city are.
Right.
And until people start voting, I don't think we'll have any real sense of who the front runner really is.
Thank you for that wise perspective.
Thank you, Tucker.